are engaged. And we've been engaged for just about a month now.
3 years ago, a story quietly began inside a newsroom. Two anchors, Amy Robach and TJ Holmes, who spent their days delivering the world's news, suddenly became the story themselves. Their on-screen chemistry was undeniable, natural, something that made viewers lean in, thinking, they're smiling at each other, not the camera. At the time, no one realized that those smiles would become the catalyst for one of the most dramatic turns in their careers. Today, 3 years later, they are stepping into a new chapter. On their podcast, Calm and Confident, they shared the news. They are engaged. Amy's face held a quiet peace, the kind that comes after enduring heartbreak and finding your way back. TJ's voice carried relief, as if saying, finally, we get to tell our story on our own terms. They revealed, casually yet powerfully, we've been engaged for just about a month now. A simple line, but behind it lay a journey filled with challenges, careers put on the line, privacy invaded, and moments of doubt. We wanted to let you all know before anybody else, they said. Lessons learned from the past had taught them one thing. They would tell their story first themselves. 3 years ago, the media turned their relationship into a scandal. Now, they reclaimed it on their terms. Laughter bubbled quietly in the background of their announcement, warm and genuine. TJ joked about Amy playfully showing off her ring at events, saying, "You've been dangling that ring in everyone's face and nobody said a word." They laughed, but beneath that laughter was comfort, proof that they had endured speculation, criticism, and public judgment, and still stood together. This announcement was not just about a ring. It was about reclaiming dignity, telling the world, this is our story, and we choose how it is told. Back in 2022, behind-the-scenes sparks on GMA3 had made headlines, and suddenly, everything changed. Fans saw a romance, the network saw disruption. Headlines declared scandal, careers appeared jeopardized. But for Amy and TJ, stepping away from the spotlight was a choice, a conscious decision to protect themselves and their relationship. The silence that followed their departure was powerful. No interviews, no media statements, just time. And in that quiet, they healed. Time with families, small escapes, moments away from cameras. They rebuilt a life that felt authentic again. Every social media glimpse, every candid photo showed peace, the kind that only comes when you survive the storm together. When Amy spoke about celebrating with family for the past month, it was not about a public reveal or spectacle. It was about joy. She shared how her parents noticed the happiness on their faces more than the ring itself. They might not have noticed the ring, but they noticed the joy, she said. That simple observation captured the essence of their moment. Not showy, not staged, but deeply real. During a quiet weekend in Athens, Amy's mother remarked how everyone seemed happy to see them both genuinely happy. The message was clear. The world didn't need headlines. Happiness was enough. TJ smiled and admitted, "We're surprised we're just now talking about it." The weight of past scrutiny lifted, replaced by the quiet power of telling their story themselves. Fans felt it too. The same platforms that once buzzed with speculation now shared support. They deserve this happiness. The media, too, shifted, recognizing the announcement was about love, life, and choice. The phrase, "on their own terms," was more than words. It was a victory. The most beautiful part of this story is how they endured the lowest points together, without letting the world define them. They stood by each other when everyone seemed against them. And now, after the storm, they finally shared their joy. Their engagement is more than a relationship update. It's a message. Sometimes standing up for yourself means facing the world alone. Sometimes protecting your heart means stepping away. They learned Both. And in doing so, they chose each other every single time. There was no dramatic flourish in the podcast, no grand finale, just quiet confidence. We've been through it all, and this time we're writing our own story, they said. And maybe that's why everything felt calm this time. No flashing cameras, no controversies, just a simple ring, a new beginning, and two people laughing together the same way they did on that first day. But this is not the end. It is only the start of a new chapter, because after this engagement, they would not only face each other, they would face the world, ready to define themselves once again. After announcing their engagement, Amy and TJ stepped into a world that had watched them crumble, judge, and speculate for years. But now, they were taking control, not just of their story, but of their lives. It wasn't about headlines anymore. It was about authenticity. For the first time in a long time, they weren't performing for the camera. They were living quietly and fully. The days that followed were filled with private celebrations and family gatherings, the kind of moments that reminded them why they had chosen each other. They laughed, reminisced, and embraced the simple joys that often get lost in the chaos of public life. Their happiness wasn't loud, it was intimate, and that intimacy gave their story a weight that no tabloid could ever replicate. Fans, who had once dissected every glance and whispered every rumor, now celebrated with them. Social media lit up with messages of support and excitement. Suddenly, the narrative was no longer about scandal, betrayal, or gossip. It was about love, perseverance, and a second chance. Every post, every shared memory reflected the reality that these two had endured the storm together and emerged stronger. But the road to this moment had not been easy. Their careers, once a platform for global recognition, had faced turbulence. Leaving GMA3 wasn't just a professional risk. It was stepping into uncertainty. Questions loomed. Could they rebuild? Would the public forgive? Could they find work in a world that had already judged them harshly? Yet each obstacle only seemed to reinforce their bond. They leaned on each other, turning doubt into determination, skepticism into motivation. In interviews that followed, Amy and TJ spoke candidly about the lessons learned during their hiatus from the spotlight. They shared insights about resilience, trust, and the importance of setting boundaries. Their honesty resonated with audiences who had long been fascinated by their lives, now seeing two people committed not only to each other, but also to living a life on their own terms. Traveling together became a symbol of their renewed freedom. From quiet weekends in small towns to exploring cities abroad, every journey was a statement. They were partners in every sense, navigating life side by side, unbothered by outside noise. Observers could see the difference, not just in smiles, but in posture, in the calm confidence that radiated from them. They were no longer reacting to the world. They were leading their own narrative. Professional opportunities began to emerge organically. Projects that aligned with their values and passions presented themselves, allowing Amy and TJ to step back into media spaces without compromising their integrity. They weren't chasing fame, they were creating platforms that felt authentic, where they could inform, entertain, and connect on their own terms. And yet, even as life regained balance, there was a constant awareness of the past. The memories of public scrutiny weren't erased. They became tools for reflection. Each glance back reminded them of the strength they had built, the lessons learned, and the commitment that had brought them to this point. Their engagement, and the joy surrounding it, wasn't just about a ring or an announcement. It was about triumph, survival, and the courage to love openly after adversity. Even casual moments carried weight. Sharing a coffee on a sunny morning, catching each other's eyes across a room, laughing over an inside joke. These small instances became emblematic of a relationship that had weathered storms and emerged unshaken. Those who followed their story closely understood that real life isn't measured by drama or scandal, but by these intimate, unspoken victories. Through it all, Amy and TJ maintained a quiet mantra: authenticity above all else. Their engagement was no longer just a milestone. It was a declaration of who they were, two people who chose each other, protected each other, and honored the life they were building together. Public opinion, past rumors, and the world's expectations had become background noise. What mattered most was the love, respect, and partnership they shared in each moment. As the months unfolded, it became clear that their story had transformed. From behind-the-scenes sparks that once made headlines to private celebrations that redefined joy, Amy and TJ were no longer reacting, they were creating. And in doing so, they inspired a quiet, powerful truth that love, resilience, and authenticity can not only survive public scrutiny, but thrive in it. And yet, even with all this progress, questions lingered about the future, about the life they were choosing together, and about the paths they still wanted to explore. But the answer was always the same. As long as they faced the world together, nothing else mattered. Their engagement was not an ending. It was a promise, a prelude to the life they were writing as partners, allies, and equals. After months of keeping their relationship private, Amy and TJ began to experience the world watching them differently. The scandal that had once overshadowed every headline was now replaced by curiosity tinged with admiration. Social media, once a place of scrutiny, became a space of celebration. Fans who had dissected every glance and gesture now sent messages of encouragement, excited to witness their journey unfold on their own terms. It was a delicate balance. Every public appearance, every post, had to feel natural, authentic, but also carefully managed. They were not performing, they were living. And yet, they understood the world would always watch. The key was not to hide, but to remain true to themselves. Slowly, the narrative began to shift. Media outlets that had once sensationalized their relationship started to focus on their resilience, their commitment, and the courage it took to reclaim their story. The headlines changed from scandal to human interest, from gossip to growth. Career opportunities, long on pause, began to present themselves in ways that felt right. Interviews and projects aligned with their values started coming in, allowing them to re-enter media spaces without compromise. Amy, with her decades of experience, and TJ, with his unique perspective and charm, found ways to blend credibility with authenticity. Each project became a chance not to prove themselves, but to continue building a platform that reflected who they were and what they valued most. Travel and appearances offered moments to connect with fans in ways that were real, not staged. At conventions, small gatherings, or community events, they could interact without fear, without the pressure to explain or justify. The joy they radiated was infectious, and people noticed. Conversations no longer revolved around controversy, but curiosity, admiration, and genuine support. Even as they navigated this new landscape, Amy and TJ maintained a deep awareness of the scrutiny they had endured. Every glance back at headlines or viral stories reminded them of the challenges they had faced. But instead of bitterness, those memories fueled clarity. They had emerged not broken, but stronger, more focused, more united. Their bond was now a testament to endurance, a silent declaration that adversity could not define them. Their engagement became a symbol not just for fans, but for themselves. Each photo, each video, each candid moment was a quiet assertion: we survived, we chose each other, and we control our narrative. They were no longer at the mercy of public perception. They were shaping it. And in doing so, they were sending a message. Life after scandal is possible. Love can thrive even when the world is watching. Behind the scenes, they supported each other in ways the public couldn't see. Long conversations about priorities, about career choices, about where and how they wanted to grow together, became the foundation of a partnership rooted in mutual respect and understanding. Every decision, public or private, was guided by their shared values, reinforcing the strength of a relationship tested by intense scrutiny and pressure. As their media presence grew, so did the appreciation for their authenticity. Interviews were no longer about controlling a narrative. They were about connecting, inspiring, and demonstrating that life is never linear and success and happiness are measured not by what others say, but by the integrity with which you live it. Amy and TJ's journey, once framed as scandal, had transformed into a story of redemption, resilience, and hope. Public perception had shifted, yes, but more importantly, their internal compass had aligned. The couple's engagement was no longer just an announcement. It was the first chapter of a story defined by courage, honesty, and unwavering partnership. And while the world had begun to embrace them again, Amy and TJ knew that their story was theirs to write. Each choice, each step forward, reinforced a lesson learned through hardship. The narrative of your life is yours alone. They were determined to make it authentic, meaningful, and undeniably theirs. After reclaiming their story and rebuilding their public image, Amy and TJ began to fully immerse themselves in the private joys they had long been denied. The engagement was not just a milestone, it was a reason to celebrate life on their own terms. Weekends were spent with family, sharing quiet laughter and heartfelt conversations, moments that no camera could capture, but every heart could feel. Travel became more than a pastime. It became a symbol of freedom. Whether walking through cobblestone streets in small European towns or exploring the energy of bustling cities, every journey was an opportunity to reconnect, not just with each other, but with themselves. Away from flashing cameras and public scrutiny, they could simply exist as Amy and TJ, two people in love, learning and growing together. Family gatherings took on a special significance. Amy's parents, who had watched their daughter navigate the harsh scrutiny of the world, were finally able to see the genuine happiness that had always been there, now fully visible. They might not have noticed the ring, but they noticed the joy, Amy recalled. It wasn't the diamond or the announcement that mattered most. It was the lightness in their hearts, the laughter, the quiet moments of connection that made the engagement feel real. Even mundane routines were transformed into celebrations. Sharing a morning coffee, cooking a meal together, or taking an evening stroll became rituals of intimacy and grounding. Each small gesture was amplified by the awareness of how far they had come, how much they had endured, and how deeply they had chosen each other. These ordinary moments carried extraordinary meaning. Friends and loved ones began to notice the shift as well. Conversations with longtime colleagues, neighbors, and acquaintances reflected admiration for the couple's resilience. People saw two individuals who had faced intense public scrutiny and yet chose joy, love, and authenticity over resentment. Their presence was calming, inspiring, and undeniably real. Even in travel, moments of spontaneity created stories that were quietly powerful. A late-night walk under streetlights, a shared joke over breakfast in a small cafe, or a candid photo taken on a scenic overlook. These snapshots weren't for social media. They were for them. Each experience became a thread in the tapestry of a life being carefully, lovingly woven together. In these personal celebrations, Amy and TJ were also able to reflect on the journey that had brought them here. The highs, the lows, the heartbreak, and the healing. All of it had shaped a relationship capable of enduring public and private trials alike. Their engagement was no longer just a symbol of commitment. It was proof that love could thrive in the most challenging circumstances. And yet, there was a quiet awareness that this happiness was fragile in its beauty precisely because it had been hard-won. Every moment of laughter, every shared glance, every inside joke was infused with a sense of gratitude. They had learned to cherish what the world could not see, knowing that authenticity mattered more than public approval. Amy and TJ's days were filled with this subtle magic, a normalcy that felt extraordinary. It was in the way they supported each other, celebrated each victory, and navigated challenges hand in hand. Their love had evolved beyond headlines, beyond scandal, into something tangible, enduring, and deeply human. The couple's journey through these private moments was not just about comfort or escape. It was about rebuilding a foundation strong enough to face the next chapters of life. Each celebration, each quiet adventure, each intimate moment was a brick in a life being constructed with intention, love, and authenticity. By embracing these private joys, Amy and TJ were showing the world something remarkable, that true happiness isn't defined by public approval or dramatic gestures, but by the love you cultivate quietly, consistently, and with unwavering intention. As Amy and TJ settled into the private joy of their engagement and daily life, the professional world began calling again, but this time on their terms. The couple had learned lessons the hard way. Fame could be fleeting, headlines could be cruel, and public opinion unpredictable. But with the clarity gained from stepping back, they now approached opportunities with precision, purpose, and a shared vision. Projects began to appear that aligned with their values, interests, and integrity. Amy, with her years of experience, and TJ, with his fresh perspective and natural charisma, found ways to reconnect with audiences without compromising who they were. Each new opportunity wasn't about chasing attention or proving themselves. It was about creating meaningful content that reflected authenticity and credibility. Interviews, podcasts, and collaborations became tools to redefine their narrative. They shared insights about resilience, life lessons, and the importance of honesty, both on screen and off. The public, who had once scrutinized their every move, now embraced this new chapter with admiration. It was no longer a story about scandal or controversy. It was about growth, reinvention, and the power of choosing one's path. Even smaller professional engagements carried significance. Speaking at events, participating in panels, or hosting digital segments allowed them to demonstrate mastery over their craft while maintaining the balance they had fought so hard to reclaim. Their presence was confident, measured, and grounded, proof that experience, when paired with authenticity, creates undeniable impact. At the same time, Amy and TJ remained deeply committed to protecting their private life. Every decision was weighed not just professionally, but personally. Travel schedules, public appearances, and media interviews were carefully selected to honor their relationship, their family, and the life they were building together. The lesson was clear. Success was not just measured in visibility or recognition, but in harmony, integrity, and alignment with one's values. Fans quickly noticed the difference. There was no overexposure, no attempts to sensationalize their story. Instead, audiences witnessed a couple who had endured public scrutiny and emerged stronger, wiser, and more focused. Their work, their presence, and their engagement became a model of resilience, an example of how personal growth and professional excellence could coexist when guided by clarity and intention. Behind the scenes, the couple strategized, supported, and encouraged each other. Brainstorming sessions, creative planning, and professional goal setting became shared rituals, reinforcing not only their careers, but their partnership. Each professional victory, no matter the size, was celebrated as a testament to the strength of their relationship and the dedication they brought to everything they pursued. Through this carefully orchestrated comeback, Amy and TJ demonstrated a rare truth. Public perception is fleeting, but reputation built on authenticity, skill, and integrity endures. They were no longer defined by past controversies or gossip. They were defined by their choices, their commitment, and the authenticity they brought to every aspect of life. And as the months passed, the world began to take notice in a different way. Journalists, collaborators, and audiences alike recognized that this was a couple who had weathered storms, emerged with perspective, and now commanded respect not through drama, but through competence, grace, and unwavering authenticity. Their engagement was still a source of joy, but it now existed alongside professional accomplishments that further validated their resilience and dedication. Amy and TJ's journey into the next phase of their careers wasn't just about returning. It was about reclaiming authority, presence, and identity. Every interview, every project, every carefully chosen public appearance reinforced that they were no longer reacting to the world. They were leading their own narrative, together, stronger than ever. With their engagement fully celebrated, Amy and TJ began looking forward to the next chapter, the wedding, the shared future, and the life they had envisioned together. This was no longer a story defined by headlines or speculation. It was a story they were creating, moment by moment, intentionally, and with love. Planning a wedding after everything they had endured wasn't just about the event. It was about symbolism. Each choice, from the location to the smallest detail, reflected the values and priorities they had cultivated together: intimacy over spectacle, authenticity over performance, and joy over approval. It was a celebration not for the cameras, but for the people who mattered most: family, friends, and each other. Even as they imagined the big day, the couple remained grounded. Their focus was on the life beyond the ceremony, the shared experiences, the quiet mornings, the travels, the laughter, and the countless ordinary moments that together form an extraordinary life. They understood that love wasn't a headline. It was built in daily commitment, trust, and mutual respect. Looking back on the journey that brought them here, the challenges seemed almost surreal. The public scrutiny, the scandal, the abrupt career shifts, all of it could have broken them. Instead, it had forged a bond of unparalleled strength. Their relationship, once tested by fire, now radiated a calm confidence born of survival and deep understanding. The anticipation of marriage carried with it both excitement and gratitude. Every decision became a shared adventure. Even the smallest plans, choosing a menu, sending invitations, or simply discussing a weekend getaway, were imbued with joy. For Amy and TJ, these were the moments that mattered most, the moments that defined the life they had fought to reclaim. Reflection became a daily practice. They often spoke of the lessons learned along the way, the importance of patience, the power of communication, and the necessity of protecting what truly matters. Their story had transformed from one of scandal and speculation to one of resilience, love, and intentional living. Every step they took reinforced the truth that happiness isn't given, it's earned, nurtured, and fiercely protected. Fans and followers continued to witness their journey with admiration. Each glimpse into their life, whether through interviews, social media, or casual appearances, showcased a couple who had learned to navigate the world together, stronger and more unified than ever. They weren't just surviving, they were thriving, and their joy was contagious. And yet, amid all the planning, celebration, and public acknowledgement, Amy and TJ held on to one quiet truth. The story that mattered most was theirs alone. Every glance, every shared laugh, every moment of understanding was a reminder that love, when protected and cherished, can endure anything. The ring on her finger, the promise in their hearts, and the life ahead were proof of a journey that had been as challenging as it was beautiful. As the wedding day approached, there was no need for grand statements or dramatic gestures. The real celebration was in the life they had built, the trust they had restored, and the love that had survived every test. They were ready, together, not for the world's approval, but for the simple, profound joy of choosing each other every single day. Amy and TJ's story, once defined by scandal, had evolved into a testament to resilience, authenticity, and unwavering commitment. It was a reminder that love, when nurtured through adversity, emerges stronger, brighter, and more meaningful than ever. And as they stepped into this final chapter, ready to say I do, it wasn't just a wedding, it was the culmination of a journey, defined by courage, hope, and the unshakable bond of two people who refused to let the world write their story for them.